all of us at Major League Baseball are thrilled to be back in London. We had a great trip with the Yankees and the Red Sox in 2019, and are really excited to bring another of Major League Baseball's great rivalries, the Cubs and the Cardinals, to London. London was a great host the last time around, and I'm sure equally good. I want to thank Mayor Khan for extending hospitality to us. London is a really important part of our international strategy. We have seen great growth in baseball since we were here in 2019. The number of people in Britain that identify as fans has doubled since 2019. Great Britain made a great showing in the WBC. They qualified and actually have qualified for the next event by finishing fourth in their pool. We think that that team is special for us. It's kind of an organically developed team, important to the growth of the game here in England. We are committed to London as part of our program, and I'm happy to announce that we will be back next year with the Mets and the Phillies. I think it's June 8th and 9th. Going to make this part of our regular program, and looking forward to be back next year. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Okay, we have microphones on both sides. Just raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. We'll start on the inside here on the aisle.
Hi, I'm Charles from France. So you just mentioned that internationalization of the MLB is really important. It's good to be back in London, but France and Paris, we are waiting for so long for that. So we heard 2025. So is it part of that development?
Yeah, we are in the process of working on Paris in 2025. We're not at the point where we're going to make a commitment or make a formal announcement, but it is in the planning stages and was part of the kind of general program that was laid out in the last basic agreement.
Rob, in the front row on your left.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kieran. In your speech at the start, you said that London is very important. Can you elaborate on why it's so important that it's come to London and the importance of it?
Well, I'd make 2 points. I mean, there's probably more that should be made, but number one, London is a great sports town. And I think because there's sort of a natural affinity for sport here in London, it's a great place to gain a foothold into Europe. Secondly, I do think just for historical reasons, there's an special affinity between Great Britain and the United States. We understand baseball is a uniquely American phenomenon in some ways, but if you're trying to internationalize, starting on friendly territory seems like a good plan.
The second row in the middle.
Hi, Ian Parker from Press Association. Hi.
I'm sorry.
You mentioned the growth that there's been since the games in 2019. Obviously, this series was supposed to happen in 2020. It was a pandemic. It didn't. How easy or difficult has it been to sort of regain momentum that you might have otherwise built?
Yeah, I mean, look, the bad things caused by the pandemic is a very long list. But I do think one of the things I regret is that we weren't able to build immediately on the momentum that we felt that we gained from the Yankee Red Sox series here. It was a really popular event, great games, economics were really strong in terms of merchandise sales. But it is a fact of life that the pandemic caused delays on a variety of fronts, and we feel like bringing another rivalry here and making a commitment to come back next year will allow us to regain the momentum that we might have lost.
Back to the front row on the left side.
Hi there, Gareth. I was speaking to Grim Gilmore, the chief executive of the London Stadium earlier, who says he wants this ground to become the home of baseball in the UK. Is there any appetite in the future collective bargaining to have multiple European series so London can have a game every year through the next set? Yeah,
I mean, I can't go beyond the fact that we feel London's really important. We're committed this year. We're going to be back next year. I will say this. The players who came in 2019 found the event, the experience to be a really positive one. And the key to making London a recurrent part of the event is making sure that the players have a great trip, that they enjoy themselves while we're here, and we're working very hard to make sure that that happens this time around.
Rob will stay on the left in the third row on the end.
Hi, Commissioner. Sunny Upal from The Sun. Another rivalry series announced for next year, Rob. Mets, Phillies. Why is rivalry important for you to bring over? Obviously, the Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Cardinals. Also, is it any coincidence they play tonight, the Mets and Phillies?
No, that is purely a coincidence, I can tell you. It's hard enough to schedule 2,340 games. To work out that coincidence would be really hard. Look, we want to show our best. When we come someplace special like London. We do regard London to be special, of strategic importance to us. We think our game is at its best when we have traditional rivals playing, and we want to show the fans here in London the very best form of baseball.
Rob, second row on this side. Katie.
Hi.
Hi. You've been such a strong proponent for growing baseball universally. Think of the World Baseball Classic and its success this year. Do you have any plans to expand to other series outside of Europe in the upcoming years?
Yeah, we have a very detailed plan for play. In addition to London, we've been to Mexico already this year. We intend to be there again. We do view Europe generally as a strategic priority for us going forward. We are, however, also interested in places in the Americas where it's closer to home and baseball has more of a rooting in the culture.
Staying right here, Jeff.
By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Japan also, obviously, Japan, Taiwan, Korea also remain important initiatives for us, and we will be playing in those countries over the course of the next few years.
Jeff.
Rob, I know you guys had an event with him this morning. Obviously, he's here in the room today. Mr. Pujols recently joining your office. Can you speak to the role that you expect Albert to play in the expansion of baseball internationally?
Yeah, we're going to I think the way I think about it is we're going to get our money's worth out of Albert. He's going to be doing some work for us at the MLB Network, some on-air activities. He's also going to be working with me on baseball operations issues, rule changes, topics like that. He also has, as do I, a special interest in the Dominican Republic. We have a huge relationship and economic footprint in the Dominican. And I think Albert and I share the goal of making sure that relationship is as positive as possible with that country and the players that come from there.
Staying on the right, Derek in the third row.
Hi, Rob. Thanks. I'm wondering, you mentioned that part of it is the experience that the players have in these things. When you go to Asia a lot of times, or Australia, you open the season there, which accommodates a little elasticity in the schedule. This is in the middle of the season, which restricts it greatly. What can be done in that regard? As you come to Europe, what can you do to adjust the schedule in a way to make it more prominent? Yeah,
look, I think that the weather is a really limiting factor in terms of, we like that start the season idea because it does give you flexibility in spring training, gives players time to recover after travel, really absolutely necessary when you're going to Asia. We see Europe differently. I mean, the flight in a lot of ways is not all that much worse than east to west, which we do all the time. We have to play here at a point in time where, we have some degree of certainty about the weather. I do think over time, if in fact the game grows in popularity here, the way we hope it does, there are things that could be done in the schedule in order to create more windows of opportunity for play here. There's been conversations over the years about 154 as opposed to 162. Obviously, that would be an easy alternative.
Rob in the second row, all the way on the left.
Yes, I'm Bruce Greenberg.
Derek, I just want to be clear,
sorry.
easy in terms of logistics, maybe not other issues, but, right.
Bruce here for Fox Sports Radio. 4 years ago, of course, we had a couple of Slugfest marathons with the Yankees and Red Sox. What do you expect from the Cubs Cardinals this weekend? If anything, the game should be a bit shorter with the pitch clock. I kind of think of that as the 24-second clock in the NBA.
Yeah. I think the only prediction that I'm going to make about what's going to happen on the field is I think compared to 2019, the game will move along at a little brisker pace than it did. And, you know, I'm looking forward to that. Slugfest can be great games for fans, particularly new fans. Lots of action could be a good thing. So we'll see what happens on the field.
Staying in the same row on the left side, the middle.
Hi, Commissioner. So as you guys look to expand Major League Baseball in Europe specifically, what lessons have you learned from perhaps other sporting leagues like the NFL who've been here, and what were the biggest takeaways from 2019?
Yeah, I think that, in terms of picking locations, starting points, we pay a lot of attention to what other sports have done. Obviously the NFL's had a big presence here in London and taken advantage of the sporting culture that I referred to earlier. I think that the second thing, and, this morning is a great example of it, play is a really important part of developing fandom in countries. We were at a school here in London this morning, made a donation for the construction of a field where young people can play baseball, interact with our game. So in addition to bringing, great players here, and showcasing the Major League game, I think like other sports, we need to continue to invest in youth participation, make sure young people are playing our game.
Rob, down here on the right, on the end, first row.
Hi, Commissioner. Ken McGuire from AP. Just a couple of Oakland questions. Besides the committee that Mark Antonazio is heading, are there any other additional committees that are going to look into the Oakland scenario? And in addition, what is your deadline, if you have a deadline, for when you want to see clubs vote on that?
There will be only one relocation committee. Our relocation guidelines makes clear that the relocation committee does the initial examination of the application to relocate, and then makes a recommendation to the executive council from there. I haven't named the additional members of the committee. And I don't have a firm timeline on when. It depends on when the application comes in and how long the committee feels it needs to examine the application.
That probably answers one of my other questions. Has Oakland sent in initially its paperwork to request the move?
Not yet.
And given your recent comments about your regrets about the Houston situation, I wondered, do you have any similar regrets at all about anything you've said about the Oakland fans?
I think my comment about Oakland was that I feel sorry for the fans, that it was my initial and preference that we find a solution in Oakland. The comment that I made about the fans on a particular night was taken out of context of those two larger remarks. I feel sorry for the fans. We hate to move. We did everything we could possibly do to keep the club in Oakland. And unfortunately, one night it doesn't change a decade worth of inaction.
And so just last one on Europe. Do you foresee down the line in future years that there'd be multiple series in Europe, so you'd come here more than once? And do you have a wish list on which cities that you'd like to play in?
Look, I'd love to be in Europe more than once a year, and I'm not. One thing I've learned over time, I'm not getting into wish lists because it starts speculation that usually not that productive.
Rob, we're going to go to the fourth row in the middle on the aisle. We'll just get him a microphone.
Commissioner, you talking about where this goes over a long distance. You presumably don't see the possibility of any team taking part on a regular basis? Do you see it simply as a more structured and more regular series of outings?
Look, I think in the relatively short term, I think about it as an opportunity to have more regular visits. I think what happens over the longer term depends on, developments with respect to travel and whatnot. I'm not going to close the door on other possibilities, but I do think in the relatively short term, next few years, I'd like to continue to come here, and I'd like the visits to be more regular.
We'll take one more with Megan here in the front.
Rob, kind of off of that, when you guys as a league, evaluate which teams make sense to award these kind of marquee games, how much are you weighing what teams are investing in their player payroll versus the brand, how it responds to that region or fan base loyalty? Like, how do you weigh those different factors?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into making the decisions. I think with respect to London specifically, the rivalry piece of it has been the driving force. I talked earlier about bringing rivalries, but I think it's important for the sport to promote all 30. We think about our 30 equally, and while rivalries are great at the beginning, I think it's also really important with special events like these that we give all the franchises, all 30, an opportunity to participate.